Chapter 3, Nekkid. This chapter opens with a quote by Krishala Lishomwa. I no longer look for the good in people. I search for the real, because while good is often dressed in fake clothing, real is naked and proud, no matter the scars. I didn't talk to someone I love for nearly a year. We were never really best friends, but it still broke my heart to lose this lifelong friendship. The details of what transpired aren't nearly as important as the fact that simmers just beneath the surface. Vulnerability is scary shit. We both wounded each other. We were angry and scared and hid behind a tough facade, pushing vulnerability away like a side of cold Brussels sprouts. So many of us do this. Whether we've received explicit messages like "dry it up," or showing emotion is weakness, or picked up more subtle signals from culture, we've all learned to fear vulnerability. It's difficult, exposing, and can make us feel defenseless and naked, but it is a crucial step on the journey toward calm. The lie of modern American culture is this: don't get naked. Have sex, watch porn, get freaky, but don't get naked. The path from chaos to calm begins with honesty. They say the truth will set you free, but it might make you extremely uncomfortable in the process. It strips away all the layers of cultural norms, religious expectation, family secrets, and perfectionism. Do it anyway. Once you start owning your story, no one can take it away from you. No amount of gossip or slander or disengagement can diminish the fact that you are not who you once were. Not giving up in the face of adversity will change you. Brené Brown says it like this: when we deny our stories, they define us. When we own our stories, we get to write a brave new ending. I know this is true. I may have learned it as a researcher, but I live this truth as a daughter, a partner, a leader, a sister, a mother, and a friend. When we push down hurt or pretend struggle doesn't exist, the hurt and struggle own us. It's okay to get naked. At the age of 10, I was a chubby, prepubescent blob of nerves. You can imagine just how horrified I was when my grandpa took me to the YMCA one terrible morning. We walked into the locker room and I was appalled to realize it must have been Senior Citizen Saturday at the Y. Everything had lost its elasticity. Body parts were sagging below other body parts. The room was filled with white-haired old men that looked sort of like whole chickens vacuum sealed in the refrigerated section of the grocery store. But those old men weren't just naked, they were Nekkid. Okay, it's the southern pronunciation of the same word, but this is my book, so I'll say it how I want. What is it with old people? They are either more confident than ever, or they've spent a lifetime caring about what everyone else thinks and they're just done. Set the boys free, Gramps. Truth is, that Saturday wasn't terrible because these men were strutting around in all their saggy glory. It's because I was petrified of anyone seeing me without clothes on. I found comfort in a hoodie, even on warm days in Alabama. I preferred to wear a t-shirt at the pool because I didn't have the muscle tone of other more athletic boys my age. So I did the mature, brave thing. I tied a towel around my waist and performed the most awkward, shimmying dance to change from street clothes to swimsuit without showing off my most vulnerable parts. My issues with body and others makes sense when you consider the sexual abuse I endured as a preschooler. My wounds taught me the danger of vulnerability. Growing up in the sometimes toxic 90s evangelical purity culture, only reinforced that nothing about my body was good. Girls were taught that sexuality in the female body was evil. Keep everything covered up or you make your brothers in Christ sin. And we were all taught, either directly or indirectly, that even attraction to another person was bad. We'd better kiss dating goodbye and kiss nothing else if we knew what was good for us. During my years in Bible school, we had a purity ceremony where we were married to Jesus and received a ring. Yes, even the guys, because Jesus is the lover of my soul. Duh. I'm much older than the little boy in the locker room with my granddad, but I still don't like to get naked. As uncomfortable and scary as it can be, I'm convinced that everyone needs to do it. Vulnerability empowers us to own our stories. Stripping away the facade and getting gut-level honest about who we are and where we've been isn't easy. Nothing worth doing is easy. Plenty of people that I know wouldn't be comfortable viewing their own bare forms in the mirror. No one starts out celebrating their scars or the extra weight around the middle or that funny-shaped birthmark. Still, we all want the freedom of vulnerability, to be naked and unashamed, even if we don't know it yet. Doubt may shiver down our spines when we start to pull off our shirts, but we must learn to embrace ourselves if we're ever going to encourage others to do the same. Saying sorry. In the middle of writing this book, I received a 2-page handwritten letter from the loved one I hadn't spoken to in a year. In essence, he opened up to me and said what we all long to hear when we've been wounded. I am sorry. The sad reality is that I was honestly okay with writing him off, but he found the courage to be seen, to be naked, and to reconnect. I'm not proud of my initial response, but this is a chapter on vulnerability, so hey, you get the whole story. My loved one's willingness to value our relationship over his own incredible discomfort taught me, once again, that anything that's been crushed can be restored. I'm forever grateful for this lesson and for the relationship that we've been rebuilding since that day. Part of living honestly is being willing to apologize. Are we willing to be honest about our mistakes, apologize, and move forward? Are we ready to stop playing the blame game, start owning our stories, and creating our futures? Just like the pebbles dropped in a pond, our actions ripple out and impact those around us. Even if there's no direct impact on the ones we love, the boldness and self-compassion we cultivate each time we share our stories allow us to fight fear, shame, and guilt better than ever before. Instead of unintentionally poisoning the relationships we most care about, we begin to strengthen the ties that bind us. When we choose to become vulnerable, it is because something inside us longs to be courageous, to tell the truth, and to speak the hard-won wisdom. It's the soul that longs to tell a better story, one more in line with the truth of our being. We are no longer bound by what the past says about us and our best efforts to keep it hidden. We aren't trapped by the shameful lies that work so hard to hold us back from the very best life has to offer. We are so much more than the residue of a terrible moment. In the richness of our relationships, we discover a full life. Connection happens on the sacred journey toward wholeness. It shows up bit by bit as we build deeper trust with people we cherish. Regularly practicing vulnerability with your inner circle is vital. Maybe it's weekly brunch with your best friend, confession with your priest, or a video chat with your sister who lives out of state. It doesn't matter how it looks. Getting naked keeps us open and helps our hearts stay soft and warm. The coldness of everyday life and the demands of work and family can harden us quickly. Regular doses of genuine connection is the perfect medicine for weary souls. In a recent conversation, my friend Laura said, "Wouldn't it be incredible if, just for a moment, we could see everyone's thoughts and secrets? Can you imagine how that would help us understand the person better? What if we could see the abuse they endured, the shame they were raised under, the pain they've experienced? What if we could see the good intentions behind their awkward words? Wouldn't it make us all more compassionate in our responses if we saw, just for a few grace-filled moments, how alike we are inside?" Anne Lamott said, "We begin to find and become ourselves when we notice how we are already found, already truly, entirely, wildly, messily, marvelously who we were born to be." When naked is uncomfortable. It's awkward when a total stranger shucks down in front of us, blinding us with emotional nudity. That's not what I'm advocating. It's usually not healthy to overshare with people we don't know. But these days, in appropriate settings with my inner circle people, my goal is to take it all off. Vulnerability is now a big part of how I serve others, so I had to find the courage to get honest with myself first. While I don't like being the Nekkid grandpa, the first to strip down, it can make a profound difference. Whenever I go first in vulnerability, sharing even the raw parts of my story, I connect with others. And that's true for all of us. When others are doing their best to keep things covered with that awkward towel dance, we can empower them to live honestly. We just need to share our own balance of courageous vulnerability and gracious invitation to tell the truth. For the first 28 years of my life, I was scared to death of being seen. My whole life was an awkward towel dance, trying to misdirect attention from the parts I wanted to keep hidden. At the time of my suicide attempt, I thought that if people realized who I was underneath all the layers of performance and people-pleasing, they wouldn't accept me. Does that sound familiar? After a few months of individual therapy and marriage counseling, I learned that fear and shame are kissing cousins. They're always doing their damnedest to keep our past under lock and key and our futures as predictable and dim as possible. My wife promised to neither leave nor think less of me for opening the Pandora's box of my life and laying all my pain, secrets, fear, and shame out in the open. That gave me permission to stop performing and just be a human in need of love, honesty, and a second chance. I remember the dark days of hiding my truth from the world. It nearly killed me. I buried secrets, pain, fears, and illnesses down deep, praying no one would ever find the real me. Spending a week on a psych ward after my suicide attempt wasn't my first choice. I was humiliated, defenseless, and scared. I could no longer run from the things I'd always hated about myself, and facing them was the last thing I wanted. But it was a huge step toward learning to own my story and get my life back. I hope you don't feel that desperate before you find the courage to own your truth. I can't encourage you enough to get quiet and plumb the depths of your soul. It might be scary. You might feel defenseless, but give yourself permission to discover and embrace the truth of your being. Who are you? Isn't that the question you've been asking all your life? Beyond your race, denomination, political convictions, or even your reputation, who are you? below the noise and distractions, underneath the busyness and expectations? Who are you? What's your story? Is it your first memory? Maybe the hardest lesson you've ever learned? Or your most embarrassing moment? Your biggest screw up? We've all got a story. Some of us are just more comfortable sharing than others. Self-discovery is the first step in getting your life back. It's time to get honest about who you are. What do you want? And what's been holding you back? If you're not quite ready to answer that question yet, stick with me. We'll get there together. But first, we've got to take you from chaos to calm. The most courageous thing you can do on that journey is harness your inner grandpa, get naked, and let it all hang out.